Robotics has been around for 25 years and has led to the starting of First Lego League and, well, this YouTube channel. Come with me and I will give you a bit of a history lesson about these amazing devices. The very first Lego robot was the RCX, and I'm lucky enough to own one of these right here. This goofy thing was the only Lego robot to make use of the Technic brick system. You can see it's got studs on it instead of pinholes like we would see in most robots today. The motors are very different than what we have today, and basically every other generation of Lego Robotics. See, rather than having an axle hole that you put axles into, it has an axle pin that sticks out. And you can attach this to an axle connector and make it a longer axle. Kind of a goofy looking motor. Something that's a bit stranger though is the wires. These things have like 2x2 connectors on the end, and some of the studs, well, all of the studs have metal on the edges, and this lets it actually power the motor or connect the sensor to the brick. And like most, I say most because the Spike Prime's an exception, it has motor ports, sensor ports, but rather than being ports, you can just stick them on like that. It's kind of a cool idea because it just is. Like, it's not having to click something, you can just snap it on. One problem is, it can just pop off as easily. Only has 3 motor and 3 sensor ports, which is a bit less than current ones. Although if you look at the Spike Prime, it's just has 6 ports for everything. It had no gyro sensor, but it did come with 2 touch sensors and a color sensor. And the color sensor looked like a big fat 2x4 brick with little light and sort of receptor. And unlike the motor, it is wired. Like this is firmly attached, sort of like a Spike Prime's. But what's really cool about this is just snap on another wire and boom, it's extended. RCX, it's old. It was available for 5 years, from 1998 to 2005. It actually just turned 25 this year, so happy birthday to that. It is kind of fun looking back at the system requirements. It's like Windows 95. Yeah, this thing, very old. Would I recommend using it today? Absolutely not. Do I think it's cool to have? Absolutely. Tiny screen. Next, we have the NXT. This thing was available for 8 years, from 2006 to 2012. And this was a serious upgrade over the RCX. I mean, just look at it. It looks smooth. It has 7 ports rather than the RCX's 6. 4 for sensors, 3 for motors. That made it just as hard for FLL. The motors for this thing, it didn't have a medium motor. Just had a large motor. And slight disadvantage with this for attachments is, unlike the RCX, where you can just stick it in and have the face facing out, this, you had to do something like this with your robot here if you wanted to have the face sticking out for attachments. That being said, I would say the shape of this is probably better than the EV3s, because as you can see, it's completely smooth on the bottom, rather than the EV3s where it like sticks out like that. One weird little trivia thing, I guess, NXT has its own color, and that's very light gray, because it's not just light gray, it's very light. Like, that light. Why did they do that? I have no idea. It's not like white wasn't a color already. Something about that's a bit strange. The wires for this, they look almost like an old telephone wire thing, landline. But instead of having the thing in the middle, it's off to the side. The light sensor, significant improvement, much larger, and once again, it has 2 of those little it has a receptor thing as well as a light, but its positioning, if you had it put down for like line following, it would bounce off the mat much nicer and hit it just more reliable. When it comes to coding, it used LabVIEW just like the EV3. I mean, there's not too much there. It's coding. Now we have what is, I mean, I'm torn between this and the Spike Prime for my favorite. Honestly, for hardware capabilities, wins every time. Well, not hardware, but yeah, hardware. This was cool because it came with a rechargeable battery, unlike the NXT or the RCX, but you could still use AA's, which is what you kind of want to do if you want more reliability, just because rechargeable batteries are a bit iffy. This thing, amazing. That's all I can say. It has 4 motor, 4 sensor ports. That's the reason the rule for FLL is 4 in any combination of large and medium motors. Medium motor, fantastic piece of technology. Okay, I'm kind of biased. Honestly, this thing would probably be better for attachments if it had pinholes literally anywhere on it. The medium motor was just nice because it had outward facing pinhole. Like, that's cool. That's very nice for attachments. Super nice for making dog gears and simple things like that. When it comes to sensors, this bad boy for the color sensor, the receptor is way, way, way bigger. Actually, no. Yeah, it is a bit bigger. But we have the added capability of ambient light intensity detection, and the color detection is much improved from the NXT. I mean, just look at the size of that light. It's amazing. Coding for this thing, you can still do it. Unlike any computer. It used LabVIEW, but you could also use Scratch-based coding. And you could even use Java if you wanted to, for crying out loud. Stick in a micro USB thing with Java, boom. This thing had the ability to daisy chain. USB thing, attach this to one of these on another one, and you could connect up to 4 EV3s together, making some sort of crazy conglomerate super robot. Unfortunately, that wasn't legal in NFL. FLL. Can't English today. Wires. Wow, this looks familiar. Yep, this thing has reverse compatibility with the NXT. Not for the sensors so much. I mean, you can't use EV3 motors with an NXT, but you can use NXT motors with an EV3. So if you want to take advantage of this beautiful shape, complete smooth on the bottom, you can do it. So the EV3 was available for 8 years, from 2013 to 2021, and we do have some overlap here with the Spike Prime and Mindstorm's Inventor, which came out just a month apart. Spike Prime in May of 2020, Mindstorm's Inventor in June of 2020. I unfortunately don't have a Mindstorm's Inventor, and with their recent discontinuement, that could be a bit tricky to get my hands on, but I do have a Spike Prime. I mean, I mostly do Spike Prime for my YouTube channel. So Spike Prime is more like the RCX than it was like the EV3. Very few buttons, completely smooth on the top, super nice Bluetooth connection. Like the EV3's Bluetooth connection feels so clunky, super nice. It has 6 ports, and for the first time ever, you can use them either way. Also, for the first time ever, it has a built-in gyro sensor. And the built-in gyro sensor on this thing, way better than the EV3's gyro sensor, which was an attachment thing. This thing's built-in gyro sensor, it can read tilting in any of the 6 directions, as well as angular velocity in any of the 6 directions. Super cool. When it comes to sensors, this thing makes the EV3 look like nothing. With the color sensor, rather than having it just with a light and a receptor somewhere else where it can bounce off, this thing has a light ring and the receptor in the middle, which is super nice because it's completely symmetrical. Well, not completely. When it comes to line following and reading colors, this thing kills. Motors, unfortunately, is not exactly the same. They are much more square, but for the first time ever, rather than just a large and medium motor, or just a large motor and no other motor options, we have a large, a medium, and a small motor. The small motor doesn't come with the Spike Prime or Spike Prime expansion set. Instead, it comes with the Spike Essentials set, but it is completely compatible. This thing's coding, typically Scratch-based, but what is cool is you can do it with Python if you want to do some more advanced stuff. Coding is super easy to learn. All around, great robot for beginners. Something that isn't as great, the battery life, because this thing can't use AA's. It only uses the specific rechargeable battery sold by Lego. Not the best, but, I mean, otherwise it's an all-around great robot. When it comes to wires, all of them are connected. If you want to make a wire longer, well, tough it, you can't. That's one of the disadvantages with this robot. Otherwise, it's a great robot. Thanks for watching, everyone, for this random history video I decided to do this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe.